ร่ากากาติก้าค่ะสั่งสมประสบการณ์ด้านบรรณารักษ์เยาวชนและผู้ประสานงานศูนย์ข้อมูลการเรียนรู้ประถมศึกษาของโรงเรียนเซเวียมานานกว่า14ปีค่ะปัจจุบันนั้นท่านเป็นอาจารย์บรรณารักษ์ที่สถาบันบีคอนอันเป็นโรงเรียนนานาชาติหลักสูตร IBO หรือ International Baccalaureate Organization ที่เปิดสอนในหลักสูตรการศึกษาระดับกลางคืออายุ 11-16 ปีนะคะแล้วก็ระดับประกาศนียบัตรนานาชาติอายุ 16-19 ปีค่ะท่านเคยเป็นผู้อบรมในการประชุมเชิงปฏิบัติการในงาน Storytelling Congress ครั้งที่ 2 ที่ประเทศสิงคโปร์ในปี 2545 และก็ยังเป็นตัวแทนประเทศฟิลิปปินส์มาร่วมประชุมเอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้ด้านการบริการห้องสมุดโรงเรียนที่จัดขึ้นโดยสหพันธ์สถาบันและสมาคมห้องสมุดนานาชาติร่วมกับองค์การยูเนสโกที่กรุงเทพเมื่อปี 2546 ด้วยคุณซาร่ามีโอกาสเดินทางไปทั่วทุกภาคของประเทศฟิลิปปินส์ค่ะเพื่อทำการอบรมด้านบรรณารักษ์แล้วก็การเล่านิทานให้แก่โรงเรียนและชุมชนมากมายเลยนะคะท่านเป็นทั้งครูแล้วก็นักอบรมเป็นทั้งนักเขียนแล้วก็บล็อกเกอร์เป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการส่งเสริมการอ่านเป็นผู้รับรองของสมาคมรับรองมาตรฐานสถาบันการศึกษาของประเทศฟิลิปปินส์ในด้านศูนย์สื่อการสอนเป็นที่ปรึกษาห้องสมุดของสัมบัติทรัสต์บริษัทสินเชื่อการกุศลในประเทศอังกฤษรวมทั้งเป็นประธานคณะกรรมการด้านหนังสือเด็กและเยาวชนประจำประเทศฟิลิปปินส์ด้วยเรื่องเล่าพื้นเมืองฟิลิปปินส์จาก 7,000 เกาะหรือ Tales from the 7,000 Eyes Filipino Folk Stories เป็นหนังสือเล่มแรกของเธอค่ะที่เขียนขึ้นร่วมกับนักเล่านิทานชื่อดังระดับโลกอย่างไดแอนเดอลัสคาซัสนะคะพิมพ์จำหน่ายในเดือนตุลาคมปี 2554 โดยสำนักพิมพ์ ABC Clio ประเทศสหรัฐอเมริกาผู้ที่สนใจก็สามารถติดตามอ่านงานเขียนของคุณซาร่าได้ที่บล็อกค่ะที่ http://lovealibrarian.blogspot.com นะคะท้ายการบรรยายในแต่ละช่วงนั้นเราจะมีเวลาสำหรับการตอบข้อซักถามด้วยท่านใดมีข้อสงสัยมีคำถามระหว่างที่ฟังการบรรยายก็เขียนลงกระดาษคำถามที่เราเตรียมไว้ให้บนโต๊ะได้เลยแล้วก็ส่งให้กับเจ้าหน้าที่ของเราได้นะคะช่วงท้ายนั้นเราจะให้ท่านวิทยากรได้ตอบคำถามค่ะและในโอกาสนี้ดิฉันขอเรียนเชิญคุณซาร่ากากาติก้านะคะ May I invite Miss Zarah Gagatiga Chair Philippine Board on Books for Young People Philippines ค่ะกับการบรรยายพิเศษในหัวข้อ The Role of School Libraries and Librarians in the Digital Age ค่ะ
Thank you Mr. Premsuk and officers of OKMD the library staff the staff of TK Park and Madam Tatsanay, fellow resource speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to be here and good morning. So, I'm just going to tell you stories about my country. And I am most proud to share with you these stories because these stories are stories of books, reading, libraries, and literacy. But I will touch on the role that school librarians play and the libraries in the schools, in the Philippines, and all over. So, to me, this is a very honorable moment. I was in Bangkok in 2003. That was more or less 10 years ago. And going back, I found a different Bangkok. So I'm glad to be invited and thank you so much. I really appreciated being here. So, to start with, I'd like to show you my library card. This is my school library story. I'd like to begin with the personal because the personal touches the universal. Perhaps my story is reflected in yours too. So let's look at our similarities to be able to understand each other. So that's me. Didn't change much, right? Same smile. I was 6 years old at that picture. This is my first library card. And it was given to our class of grade 1 students at the beginning of the school year. by our grade 1 advisor, our teacher. And I already know how to write and read at 6 years old, but my teacher wrote my name for me. And if you look at my borrower's card, there are only 4 visits I made in the school library. Very limited. And to further date this document, I was in 1st grade in the school year 1980-1981. So do the math. Guess how old I am? This year, 2012. So the books I read were books from the US, but I'm Filipino. My first language is Tagalog, but I am reading and learning English in the school at 6 years old. My library was very small. It looked like a cave with walls painted white, and there was this librarian who was pretty plump. She looks like a chicken. And she would have us line up at the counter and stamp every book, every borrower's card. So that was the library I grew up in. But my mother is also a librarian. So the very limited exposure I get from the school library, she filled it up. And speaking of my mother, she would want to come here, but she's still in Singapore book buying. So I hope she would drop by so we can have a reunion here in Bangkok. So again, what did she made me read? She made me read, again, English books with characters with golden hair and blue eyes about a fox and a chicken, Dr. Seuss, and what else? Hamburgers and dinosaurs and planets. It did open my world, windows and doors of opportunities, imagination, and ideas. But I felt I was missing a lot about my own culture. So who filled it up? My grandmother, who told me stories of ghosts, of folk superstitions, folk stories, our mythical heroes. So I would like to think I have a balance of both. And for that, I am very, very lucky. So it was not impossible that I pursued a career in librarianship as well, because I grew up in an environment where books and reading and stories told were aplenty. Now, what do? I read graphic novels as opposed to what I read when I was a teenager. I loved romances. And at the time, there were Sweet Valley High romances available in the school library, borrowed by my mom. But from then up to now, book production has changed drastically. And these graphic novels are the same graphic novels my children read. Back in the 80s, I listened to audio tapes. I had a Sony Walkman like that. Now, my kids and I enjoy music in an iPod. And as you see, iPods are very interactive and very engaging. So from the analog, we move to the digital. So speaking of digital resources, from books, we can now read them on e-readers. We have Kindles, and we can buy online the books that we would like to read. So it's a far improvement from that small library card I used in my library to what we are now experiencing in this day and age. We go to the library physically, but now with a username and a password, we can access titles from online journals, from online public access catalogs. And because of these advances in technology, we have realized potentials to grow and further develop, not only in terms of imagination, but in skills, in the production of content, as we navigate the digital age. So the digital age presents technology as a big factor on how we live our lives. It is a tool, yes. So you saw the iPod versus the Walkman, the Sony Walkman I used when I was a teenager. And then you have e-readers left and right in whatever application it can be enjoyed in reading. But it is also an environment that needs to be managed. So how are we managing technology? Both as a tool and as an environment. It is no longer gadgets and stuffs, but a paradigm. In fact, I was very impressed yesterday visiting TK Park, because it seems that I get this impression that there is an equal development of the print and the digital. And this is one of the many models we need to see as ASEAN countries to be able to manage technology as a tool and technology as an environment. So TK Park is the place to be. And how I wish I could bring some librarian friends here in Bangkok and visit TK Park. Maybe a long-term plan, Dr. Tatsanay, isn't it? So the question I would like us to think as school librarians or as teachers or as parents is how we are managing technology as a tool and as an environment within ourselves and the children we take care of. There are two kinds of literacy that is required for us to be able to manage technology and to survive meaningfully and fruitfully in the digital age. Functional literacy and new and emerging kinds of literacy. Functional literacy, we remain in the 4 communication arts skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Fundamental skills, very basic. It is still, I believe, the beginning of learning. The skills will aid us in understanding the world around us, in interpreting meaning and symbols, even words we cannot understand. Reading, writing, listening, and speaking enables us to create. And when we create, we do not only mimic. When we create, we get something new and infuse that new thing with what we have and create a product that we can say, I made this. So the process of creation involves these fundamental skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But creating ideas, creating information, creating knowledge doesn't end with the product. It has to be communicated. So a relationship happens between the creator and the one receiving the idea, the created information, the created knowledge. And in between is the content, the technology in which the knowledge and the information is delivered. So if you look at it, use your imagination, it's like a triangle, a love triangle between the creator and the recipient and the text, the technology. Now, in between this relationship, you have the context and the experience. And this beautiful cycle of interaction is a cycle of learning. It's a small learning community between the creator of knowledge and the one receiving it. Now, often there is a response from the one receiving the knowledge or the information. What is that? It can be new knowledge, it can be a revision, a recycling, a modification. Then we see now how ideas and information change. But enter technology, and technology is indeed a game changer, because the tools in which knowledge and information are created become a learning experience in itself. These tools need understanding as well. So we need new literacy. What are these? Information literacy, how we locate and access information from a variety of resources, from print, online, electronic, radio even, movies, a play, a brochure, a poster. How do we locate and access these formats of information? And if the information we get from these formats are relevant and meaningful to our use, is the information solving a problem? Is the information helping us become better persons? Is the information we get from a variety of sources pushing us forward to create and become better people? The second one is media literacy. How are we going to understand radio? How are we going to understand the TV shows that we watch? How are we going to understand social media and the gadgets that go with it as we enjoy a movie, as we watch a TV show, as we listen to an audio recording, either in an iPad or in whatever format? Then there's also cultural literacy. Your history, your context, your experience. Who are you as a person? What community do you belong in? What country do you come from? What are your practices, your beliefs, your traditions? Do you know them? And are you proud of who you are? And then there's also family literacy. What kind of family do you belong to? What dynamics? How is your family relating to the bigger society? So we begin with an understanding of the self and moving on to an environment where many people, many information and knowledge merge together. But I think that we also have to focus on particular skills. So giving the functional skills and the new literacy coming up or cropping up as we experiment on new technology and new media, we have to realize that we need sub-skills to be able to fully grasp the immensity of knowledge and information flooding our senses every day, every hour, every minute. So Tom Wagner from the Harvard University Graduate School identified several sub-skills which we can think of how we are going to use such skills in the content that we produce, in the materials that we read, and in our daily lives. Critical thinking and problem solving. How critical are we in knowing that the information we have is indeed true or untrue? How can we use this in problem solving? There's also the skill to collaborate across networks. That is why this conference, this convention, exemplates the collaborative skill necessary to survive in the digital age, or otherwise known as the 21st century. And then we need to be leaders ourselves, in our community, in the family, in the workplace. We need not wait for those at the top. We have to be leaders in the ranks. And we do this by influencing good so that others can also be motivated to heed the call of what is beneficial for the community. Agility and adaptability. Are you agile? Physically and mentally, so you need to take care of yourself. You need to be health conscious, as they say. Healthy mind, healthy body. Sound mind, sound body. Can you adapt to change? Do you resist change? If you resist, what is your coping mechanism to understand change? What is your response to change? Are you having a hard time managing change? In paradigm, in workplace, in yourself. Initiative and entrepreneurship. There are new models of funding and costing, new business models of implementing an idea. And we initiate and take risks. But are we ready to take risks? Can we initiate? effective oral and written communication. We have to polish the skills. Again, we go back to the 4 basic skills to become functionally literate. It remains constant. So in this world of flux and technology, those 4 skills remain. And then accessing and analyzing information and curiosity and imagination. So if you look at the sub-skills enumerated by Wagner, there is really no problem with putting this all together. The functional literacy can be your base, and this base can catapult you in acquiring new literacies. But the thing is, there you go. The thing is, we have digital natives among us. If we're teachers, we take care of students who are learning in this digital age. If we're librarians, school librarians, we're managing learners of the digital age. If you're a parent, you are raising a digital native learner. Now, this is a picture of my 2 kids. Yes, I personally picked them because number 1, I miss them. And number 2, I think they exemplify who the digital native is of this generation. Digital natives are born into an age of technology. Yes, they read. They read print, they read different materials, but they are so adept at technology. Digital natives process information differently from digital migrants. Now, who are the digital migrants? There you go. That's me, and that's my husband. We're digital migrants. We were not born in the generation of technology, but we did experience and witness the development of technology and the invention of these gadgets. We saw it. And while there are developments in technology, we were trying to adapt. So from my generation as a parent and from the generation of my children, there is now a gap. And as adults, we try our best to cope. So where are you in the scheme of things? Are you a digital native or a digital immigrant? Are you adapting and adopting technology as tool and environment? I am happy to say I am an immigrant. And I wonder at the technology upon me. And yes, most of the time, I ask my 2 kids how to operate the iPod, how to weave my way in the social networking of Facebook and Twitter. But it's been an exciting journey. But then again, how do you bridge the gap? So in our families, in your relationships with your children, there is already a gap. There is already a divide. But the divide can be bridged. The great divide, the gap, can be filled. We go into the context of school library. We see in a broad stroke the characteristic of who our children are. Those going to school in the preschool, grade school, high school or secondary level, moving up to college. The digital natives of the digital age. The 21st learners of the 21st century. So if their thinking and processing skills are very different, let's take a look at how the school librarians are adapting and adopting the challenges that it poses, that the age poses. You know, I studied library science in the Philippine Normal University, and one of the paradigms we learned in school is a set of laws by S.R. Ranganathan. S.R. Ranganathan is a mathematician. He wasn't a librarian by profession, but because the university needed a librarian, he was plucked out from the mathematics department and placed there in the library. But he did a good job at it. The library is also a set of structures and systems. And perhaps his mathematical logic inspired him to integrate this in the library and come up with these laws. Books are for use. Every reader, his or her book. Every book its reader. Save the time of the reader. The library is a growing organism. This was in 1920, and I learned this set of paradigm in the early 90s, towards the tail end of the 20th century. So looking back at my library preparation, or my academic preparation as librarian, wow, 1920 and 1990. the decades, so you do the math, and I really needed a lot of time to catch up. Gorman and Crawford, because of the demands of the digital age, the 21st century demands, came up with their own version. Libraries serve humanity, respect all forms by which knowledge is communicated, use technology intelligently to enhance library service, protect free access to knowledge. Yes, it's so easy to download PDF files online. But maybe we should think of copyright and intellectual property as we get information online. Honor the past and create the future. We need to know who we are to chart the future. If we don't know who we are or our history, it would be difficult for us to see the future or to even create it. So stability is the buzzword of the 20th century. Stability of information, stability of knowledge. Imagine the tomes and volumes of encyclopedia trapped in a book. But now, there's Wikipedia, and it changes very often. Constant change, fluidity, flexibility, adaptation. But as we respond to these changes, we put in so many gadgets in the library, we have professional development in the library, we have to change our paradigm. It's not just about books anymore. Library services should be open to all. We also need to remember three things as we do and respond to the changes demanded by the 21st century, global citizenship. And that's why we're here. We need to understand each other to be able to grow as global citizens. It will not work anymore if we stay in our country and just stay there, stagnant. We have to go out. We have to see the world, maybe virtually, intellectually, and physically. We also need to think of moral implications of the profession. As school librarians, we have to protect academic honesty and how information and knowledge is used for the good of all or for self-serving measures. How do we respect the creator of knowledge? How do we respect and discipline ourselves in the process of creation? The equitability of information access and the creation of knowledge. Is it equitable to all? Again, as school librarians, do you provide access to all? Or do you just choose those who are in the upper class? There's another service for the middle class. What about those who are back in the barrios? Later on, I will show you a school library development program of a non-government organization in the barrios in my country. And we're trying to respond to the equitability of information access. If we believe that reading is a right and literacy is for all, then those who are in the poorest of the poor deserve to have experiences in reading and literacy development as well. So the role of the school librarian and the library in this day and age would be one of collaboration, not only within the library but also outside the library. Government organizations, private institutions, parents, teachers, those who make the law, leadership. Libraries can be places where leadership can be honed, where ideas begin. Maybe it's not the kind of leadership that begins from the top, but leadership that begins from the middle and spreads out. And then technology. As I said earlier, it is a cycle. It changes. But what technology are you using? Are you evaluating? Are you conducting assessment on the technology you use in the library? The OPAC you used 10 years ago may not be working anymore, so you have to upgrade. And study possibilities of supporting the upgrade in finances and human power. So the school librarian functions as a teacher. You are not just a keeper of books and information. You teach. What do you teach? The new literacy and the functional literacy. There are mechanisms and structures in the school library that can allow you to teach. And teaching in the school library context can be done in two kinds. The first one is the indirect teaching, wherein you're welcome to teach anyone who comes to the library. There's a library staff who would assist a library user. On-the-spot orientation, where to get this, how to use the OPAC, here is the brochure, you want me to read it to you? Now there's the formal teaching, wherein the school librarian or the library staff collaborates with the classroom teacher, and together they plan what the students are going to learn, what resources the students are going to use, when are they going to the library for research. There are also opportunities for teaching literature. Conduct storytelling sessions in the library, have film viewing sessions. These are teaching roles as much as creating a system or a database that young children can tinker and play with. The library is a physical environment where you can create a teaching space. School librarians are also instructional planners. So if you know the curricular offering of the school, you can plan with the teacher. You can recommend resources, from books to magazines to online journals to posters to resource persons who can visit the class every day, who can talk about his or her job as a writer perhaps, or as a policeman. Plan instruction with the teacher. If you cannot teach, then maybe you can plan instruction with the teacher. And oftentimes, these are opportunities for librarians to level up their competency. What kind of competency? Not just library work, but looking at pedagogy, a methodology of teaching, strategies, techniques, ways of knowing, and ways of learning. School librarians can also be instructional technologists because you have the technology. The IT people, the information technology people, may put up computers in the school. The IT people may set up all these fantastic gadgets. But you, librarian, it's an opportunity for you to mediate. You are a conduit to those who couldn't fully understand the immensity of these gadgets in use for teaching and learning. And then your library systems manager also. Now the last part, this is something those who went to library school know already. This is a given. If you graduate in library school, if you have training in library school, you can manage a library effectively and efficiently. You catalog, you acquire books, you evaluate your collection, and you weed out what is no longer appropriate. You promote the books because these books needed to be used by the community. You train your staff, you circulate the books. Every day there must be something going on. There must be someone on the floor in the library looking up, checking up if everything is okay. Okay, but there are new emerging roles, and you need to prepare for these emerging roles. If your curricular or academic preparation as librarian didn't prepare you to assume these roles, then there is a reason why we have to continuously grow. There is also research that school libraries are effective. It's a US-based research and one in Canada. 2 decades of school library research by Lance, Todd, Coulto, and Smith. And this is what the research tells us. School libraries contribute to student achievement. Student achievement may be student learning. School libraries have an important role in teaching. School libraries are leading the way for technology use in schools. School libraries inspire literacy, and school libraries don't matter without certified librarians. So, for 2 decades, they picked schools and school libraries, conducted the research. Imagine 19 schools, 19 states. So, the immensity of the research put together summarized that libraries work. If that is the result, the US-based research sent out a resolution. School libraries be given and provided with up-to-date resources from print and non-print materials. Therefore, we need funding. Librarians and libraries need financial support. School librarians or school library media specialists be given a high qualified classification. To be able to do the job, to be able to become a library systems manager and an effective one, there must be an item, a mechanism for him or her that will tell, yes, you are the assigned librarian there, do your job, you are a leader in your field. And lastly, every school library be staffed by a highly qualified, state-certified school library media specialist. So we need to level up in terms of our competencies. Now this is US-based. What is the rest of the world saying? In the UK, they did a critical review of the same study conducted in the US. And this is what they found. Teacher and librarian collaboration is essential. Quality and a variety of collection leads to successful library programs. Adequate funding, flexible provision of library services and programs. So flexibility meaning open 24 hours, probably, not physically maybe, but online. Quality and frequency of library input and participation in support of teaching and learning. There are workshops in the library. There are learning sections in the library. There are visitors coming in and giving workshops and sharing their knowledge to children and young adults, and even adults who need to relearn new things. Qualified library staff, well-trained. Perhaps not all of them are librarian in profession. Maybe a similar course can be acceptable for them to become library staff. And then standards, library standards to enhance effective teaching and learning experiences. So what library standards are in place in your learning society, in your learning community for libraries to function? You can look into that. In Australia, they have another version of the research, a critical review of the current research that school libraries work, that school libraries' role as teaching venue, as technology leaders, librarians as technology leaders, is present. But there are 3 things that they found out from that study in Australia. Information literacy skills integration in the curriculum is essential. Strong computer network. So the backbone of all the library services they do for the digital age should be based on technology, leaning on technology. And then connecting the library to the classroom. There is now a connection between library and classroom. And always remember that the library is an extension of the classroom. That whatever teaching is done in the classroom, it extends to the library. Because the library is the first social department in the school. If not the canteen, or the clinic, or the gymnasium. You have the library. Now there are 2 items that struck me in that review, in that Australian version of the study. Developing a print-rich environment wherein school libraries are filled with science, writing materials, writing center, reading center, storytelling center. And children can go there free, voluntary visits. Unlike in my experience, I visited my library 4 times a year. But if you open the school library to children with voluntary visits, at lunchtime they can go there, at dismissal time they can go there, during class hours they can go to the library, then indeed the role of the library is relevant in this day and age. Now, what is going on? If that is research, by the way, I have not encountered an Asian study of school libraries similar to the US, Canada, Australia, and UK studies. Perhaps that is something the ASEAN nation can think of, because we are operating on a different social and cultural experience. So maybe we can do a similar study, a similar critical review of research on school library. Now there is practice to think of. If these are the theories, if these are all the hypotheses, what is happening in the actual school libraries? In my country, we have the Philippine Librarianship Act, Republic Act 9246. What does it mean? It professionalizes the practice of the profession. We have to have a license. We need a license. So we have to take an exam after graduation. And I have renewed my license several times. And you know what? In the immigration yesterday in Manila, I wasn't able to print out an invitation of TK Park for this conference. So the immigration officer was asking me so many questions. Why am I going to Bangkok? Am I going to work? Am I going to do this, that, etc.? So she was very suspicious. So I introduced myself and I showed my librarian's license from the Professional Regulations Office of the Philippines, and bam, pak! The immigration officer stamped my passport. So it's a big thing. And many are not passing the exam in the Philippines because the exams are so difficult. We have the DepEd School Library Guidelines to guide school librarians in the implementation of services and programs for school children in the school library. We have a robust professional learning network. We have all sorts of organizations. We have the Professional Association of School Librarians. We have the Association of Research Librarians. We have the Association of this and that librarians. There are 13 regions in the Philippines, and each region is expected to have a librarians organization. Now, what is going on in each library organization? I don't know. That is something we need to find out. Because coming together and talking about this and that of the profession, the problems, the solutions is one thing. But making an impact as a nation together is another. We also had the International Association of School Libraries Regional Conference in Bacolod, in the Visayas region of the Philippines. And 90 Filipino librarians were there, along with librarians from Indonesia, librarians from Malaysia, and one from, is it Laos or Cambodia? I can't remember. But the IASL was very telling of two things. Private school librarians were in attendance, but the public school librarians are missing. The regional conference was endorsed by the Department of Education in the Philippines, but the public school librarians were nowhere to be found. So there's a big divide between the private librarians and the public librarians in my country. Private librarians are well funded. Their libraries get funded easily. But the public schools, the ones governed by the DepEd and the government, they have issues on funding. So the great divide exists, but there is hope because there are projects, literacy and reading projects that bridge the gap. So private school librarians are working with public school librarians. We have the De La Salle School System Book Mobile project, and every month they go there, the Book Mobile, to open up their truck of books to children in the public school who have very little. There's an association of librarians in one region in the Philippines, and the librarians are giving out storytelling every month to public school children. The public schools are well populated, one class. The minimum number is 50 students, one teacher. Imagine, you teach 50 students at a time, and you're one teacher. We also have this big thing going on in the Philippines, the K-12 curriculum. And to respond to the K-12 curriculum, preschool, grade school, middle school, high school, the School Librarian Association set up a forum, and this is our question. To this day, this is the question of school librarians in the Philippines. Who is a school librarian in the K-12 program? We may have guidelines, we may have Professionalization Act, But how do we implement it in the school? We are still trying to carve our own identity. So all these roles are just theories, and it will take us a while to fully fulfill these roles in the actual school library practice. But there is evidence that school library instruction program happens, thereby sealing the proof or the evidence that librarians are teachers too. We come up with information literacy skills instruction and guided inquiry. But these are within the confines of private schools. Again, what about the public schools? So that is the state of Philippine school libraries in a nutshell, from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. There are so many gaps to be filled, and there are people helping public school librarians and private school librarians even. We have non-government organization on literacy and reading promotion projects. Here you see a library in a public school, and it's like a picture from the 1970s, but that was taken in 2010. The NGO responsible for that school library development transformed the school library into that, a bigger and brighter school library. What is that NGO? The Samba Trust, which I am helping also. It is in the southern part of the Philippines, and we are already on our 7th school library project. What support do we get from the Department of Education? The seal of approval that we can help the school libraries in their region. But all the books are donated by willing donors, by sponsors. We buy them abroad and we buy them locally. So hopefully in August we can launch the 7th school library in Batangas. As the chair of the Philippine Board on Books for Young People, what do? On July 17, that's next week, we will be having the 29th National Children's Book Day. And our theme is mother tongue-based instruction, masayang magbasa sa sariling wika. In English, it is happy to read in one's mother tongue. And we hope to tell stories not only in Manila but also in the regions in the mother tongue. We have 8 official mother tongue languages, but there are 117 more. That's how diverse the Philippines is. So those 8 languages will be promoted. It's been 2 years, the translations are going on. We call it the Lingua Franca program, the mother tongue program, and we hope to produce more books and printed materials for children learning in the mother tongue, so it will not be difficult for them to learn English or a second language. We have also partnered, the PBBY has partnered with the National Book Development Board, and in 2010, we conducted the first National Children's Book Awards. So we award what the writers and the illustrators of our country produce. How do we do the judging? We select experts in the field, and in 2010, we had 6 winners. All of them are fiction except one. And it's a long way to go. In the US, there are so many awards left and right. But this is the contribution of PBBY to the country. And once we released the best reads, the awarded books, well-written books for children, the parents welcome them with open arms because that's what they need. They need to know what age-appropriate books are there for their children. And in PBBY and the NBDB, the National Book Development Board, we're very happy that we will be conducting the 2nd one. And we will be awarding the best reads again on July 28. The PBBY is also involved in giving out the Salanga Prize. The Salanga Prize is the prize for the best written story of the year. And then the Alcala Prize, the best illustrated storybook of the year. It is a manuscript. It is a not yet published illustration put together in book form. What you see there is the winning Alcala, an illustration of the winning book, which will be published in November. So, who are the judges again? Experts in children's psychology, children's education, and children's writing and illustrating industry. We have a radio show, One Day Isang Araw, involved in this project is the Cultural Center of the Philippines, telecast or broadcast from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the 3 islands of the Philippines. Stories are told by Filipino storytellers on air. And that is one of PBBY's better projects because it's been there for 10 years. We also have the Salaysayan or the Storytelling Fest in the Philippines. So we hope to have another one in 2013. We haven't had this in a long while. Our sites are so focused abroad. We have PBBY members who just came from Singapore for the AFCC there. And we are learning from you. We're learning from the experience. So our Salaysayan, our storytelling festival, will no longer be a contest because before it's a contest, now we're going to make it a festival to see that there are many forms of storytellings, not just reading aloud. To see that storytelling in the Philippines can be in different languages. Take away the contest, take away the beauty queen style of storytelling contest in the Philippines. Maybe then we can grow orally and in written means. And then, of course, the PBBY, being 29 years old, conducts forums and workshops on Philippine children's and YA literature. So when we say YA, we refer to young adult. Now, what other literacy and reading promotion projects do we have? In August 18, Filipino readers will make a stand. If experts in the field of Philippine children's literature give awards, our Filipino book reviewers, our Filipino book bloggers will also declare their Reader's Choice Award. So this is giving power to the reader. As a reader, I am not just a recipient. I can also give a response and tell you, writer, your work is not good. Tell you, writer, your work is good because. So it's an exciting year in the Philippines, made more exciting by the Department of Education's K-12 program, wherein we focus on a universal kindergarten or preschool education, infused by mother tongue-based instruction, enriched in the middle grades by knowledge of local culture, knowledge of local history, per region, not only in Manila, and hopefully in grades 11 and 12, a skills-based curriculum that will make the young learner or the teenager decide, will I go into skills, 2-year course, or will I go into academe, 4-year course? Now, there's a lot going on there. We're only in phase 1. So wish us luck. Maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, I go back again and tell you what happened in our K-12 program. Now, all around the world, there's a school library movement going on. The IFLA School Library Manifesto, a set of guidelines that you can use to improve your services. And it is based on a library in every school philosophy, information for all. The document is free. You can download it in the website of the IFLA. And then the UNESCO Literacy Decade, wherein there's a small paragraph there or a short paragraph there that tells you school libraries are part of literacy development. It is an agent of reading and literacy development. There's one paragraph there, and it will end next year, 2013. So while we're within the year of the literacy decade, the more we need to hammer the importance of books, reading, and literacy, and all the new literacy cropping up because of technology in this digital age. UNESCO also sent out a new document. I haven't read this thick document about media literacy curriculum infused with information literacy, but that will be my assigned reading and find out how, as a school librarian, I can implement this curriculum in existing programs. IFLA and IASL reports, in Portugal, there are library for toddlers. Now, one of our speakers will talk about a book for every baby. Now, that would be an exciting thing to hear. In Honduras, there are librarians training to upgrade and level up skills. In Sweden, they are starting to enforce laws on school library development. In Nigeria, school libraries are venues of literacy development. They have the UBE, Universal Basic Education. And in Thailand, here, TK Reading Conference and Book Festival. So there's an energy, an electric energy that is wrapping around the world, that is making us sit up and listen. Okay, let us sit for a while and see where are we in the scheme of things. We know reading is important. We know libraries are important. It's relevant to be literate in this day and age. And how are we going to do it? Not only within the level of our community, but also in the ASEAN and perhaps in the world. 2013 in Singapore, you have the IFLA Congress. So school librarians or librarians here in Bangkok may consider going to Singapore in 2013. Because then there will be a talk on world libraries. What are you doing in your own country? And what is the whole world doing? An opportunity to learn from people of different races, of different cultures. Now, if that isn't global citizenship, tell me what is. School libraries in the ASEAN. What is research telling us? Okay? I think these are questions for myself, actually, and I was trying to go over my PowerPoint presentation last night. Because to me, this is also a learning experience. And in a way, you are helping me grow. So thank you for this opportunity, really. So what is research telling us? And what do we do in practice? What do we do in practice can further us improve research? Are we already in that level? Is the academe helping our school librarians come up with effective theories in school librarianship? What support mechanisms are in place? Check the training, not check, but look at how your librarians are being trained. In school, in special libraries, in government libraries, in archives and museums. What support mechanisms are in place? In law, in government, in professionalization. And then I would like to see a professional learning network for ASEAN school libraries and librarians. There's the CONSAL, right? The Consortium of Southeast Asian Librarians. But maybe they can have one small subgroup for school librarians. So we can talk more about teaching and learning and developing materials, resources, instructional materials for children and young adults. And then let us continue learning from each other and collaborating on projects for our children, for ASEAN children. Now I would like to end my presentation with the image of a bibingka. A bibingka is a rice cake, and we have that in the Philippines. You know how it is cooked? There should be fire underneath and fire above, so that the rice cake can be cooked in the middle. And that is my ending message for everybody in this hall. For us to actualize our role as teacher, instructional planner, instructional technologist, library systems manager, and to be effective at that in our school libraries for the benefit of the children, the young adults, the young people we take care of in the creation of knowledge and information. There must be heat underneath and heat from above. We need the support of the government. We need the support of the administration, principals, school leaders. But under you, librarian, you should also be passionate enough to become a school librarian of the digital age. So, when you eat the bibingka, when you eat the rice cake, it is delicious. Thank you and good morning.